Good afternoon and welcome to the Advanced Placement Program Evaluation meeting. All of you in here are involved in advanced placement in some way or another, and we're thankful you were able to come. We have the 14-15 exam results. Coach Boland's going to go over them, and there's our agenda. So we have several things to talk about, and we've got to figure out a way to get more 3s, 4s, and 5s. That is actually one of our ASIP goals this year.
Yeah, you've got the stats right in front of you, but the data, I guess you would say, not stats. But regardless, first I want to basically commend you on the job well done at last year's AP test scores. Obviously, we're not going to be satisfied and become complacent. We're going to stay after it. So, looking at these, kind of going around the room, because I feel like everybody should have a say in this. More importantly, since such an emphasis has been put on the AP exam at this point in time here at Northridge. So. We'll start with the government class. Basically 33% of the students were 3 or higher, 2 5s, 3 4s, 11 3s. So, you know, nothing to hang your head down there, but, you know, 18 2s, 14 1s. Looking as the assistant principal over curriculum, you know, I guess my insight would be maybe we've got too many of these students taking the course to maybe avoid something. I don't know. What's your thought?
I feel like we have kids who just don't belong in AP, or taking AP just to take AP, or, you know, they're just not in it for the right reasons. When most of us were in school, we took AP because we were genuinely interested in that class and wanted to excel in that class. These kids are being pressured by their peers to keep up with the Joneses kind of thing, and putting themselves in these classes that they do not belong in, period.
And I think it's a fair assessment. I don't think it, you know, we can sit here and say it's not that you're not doing your job as a teacher, because I just look at the numbers and having been in an AP classroom before, understand that a lot of what you're saying, a lot of frustration that comes with it, especially when you, seems like as an AP teacher you get graded and your efforts are gauged on how many you get 3s, 4s, and 5s. So I think it's a valid point. That's why we're all here to try to come up to a common solution. Ms. Baggett, while we're in the social studies department, you've got history and AP Psych. History 32% were 3 or higher. The impressive part is you had 10 5s, which is very, very good. That along with the AP Psych numbers, which you have in front of you, what are your thoughts as far as number one, what we did right, and number two, what we could do better?
I think, especially for AP Psych, what I felt like the kids did right and I was able to do right is we had a lot of after-school sessions at the very end. We reviewed a lot of information. I even had kids for AP Psych come up here on the weekend to do a lot of reviews. So as far as good, just extra review time, doing mock exams and stuff like that, I think really helped. As far as the negative, looking at the U.S. history, there's just a lot of material. I mean, tons of material, and the way that the class is structured. In the past, I know we've done the AP US History all year. This year, we had it done this past year as a semester. The structure of the class, because it was a new test, new AP test, I think that also hurt some people. But going off what Ms. Reed said, I think just a lot of kids are trying to take as many AP classes as they possibly can instead of just working their way in and doing maybe one at a time, which with my AP Psych class, a lot of kids, that's usually their first class that they've ever taken AP-wise. And I mean, I've had kids range from 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. I even have 12th graders who never take another AP class, but they take this one. So with AP Psych, I had 11 5s, 10 4s, and 8 3s. So, and I even had 2 kids take AP Psych through Access, and one of them actually made a 5, even without my assistance. Mm-hmm. So I think it shows that even if you have an individualized instruction, if a kid is motivated to do an AP class through Access, like AP Macro or Micro, whatever they offer, I think it is possible for a kid to be successful in an AP class.
Okay, thank you. And we'll talk some about here in a minute. You've seen the agenda, prereqs and things like that. We'll go through. Coach Reeves, you want to add anything to social studies?
Is there a prerequisite like a test or thing that they have to take to get to sign up, or?
No,
I'm not really familiar with the process for that.
Well, they're supposed to have a certain score in their classes before.
They were supposed to have at least an 85 average in their class before, but you know, a lot of students who have an 85 in an honors class or a 90 or a 95, that's because that's a really good natural fit for them, and that's where they made a 95 because that's where they were supposed to be. That doesn't automatically you know,
Justify.
warrant or justify them going into AP, but that is the prerequisite, is an 85.
And their parents control.
Their parents can override.
And then another thing too, didn't PSAT scores at some point, like, or AP potential, didn't they take some kind of?
Yeah, there has
test?
been in the past, there has been an AP potential test, but we haven't done that in a couple years, so, but that would show kids that had potential, maybe even beyond their grade level. But one problem we do encounter a lot is parents overriding the teacher recommendation and the prerequisite of the grade, to put their kids in that class.
Or not.
Do what?
Do they think their kids more than they're not?
Right, or their kid
Or
wants to be with their
not.
friends, and so they're just, you know, we'll take a B or a C. I think another thing that plays into that is the weighted credit. You know, they're thinking a C will still get me a B GPA. So I think that plays into kids who maybe don't fit there choosing to go into it.
Do you think the sheer numbers of the kids that are in the AP classes affects the rigor of it, as far as, like, the ones that are gifted and need to be pushed and are ready to do it, don't get it quite as much because there's so many kids in there that aren't ready for it?
Yeah, I think so. I think that definitely would impact, and probably the teachers could speak some to that too. But I definitely think that that's a challenge, that kind of huge gap between, you know, the kids who were really, really, truly qualified, motivated, and the ones who were in there for other reasons.
We're gonna get to this, but I know one big thing that we saw this year especially was the number of students who enrolled in the class and within the first week dropped the class. So Coach Bowling, myself, Ms. Umber, and Coach Reeves are gonna get together and write a proposal to central office to come up with some stricter prerequisites for the AP classes, so we don't have that happening, because we're having some wasted space.
Well, I also think that grade level meetings could play into that, and, you know, before registration, and really stressing what AP is, stressing the rigor that's going to be there, stressing the amount of work that's going to be there, and not necessarily to just discourage kids, but, you know, maybe to really stress it's something you need to think about and talk about with your parents before you commit to it.
Right.
And I know the social studies department has done a great job of vertical team meetings, you know, basically taking a child from 9th grade all the way up to 12th grade, and kind of routing this child's, I guess his plan, which is kind of a state mandate at this point in time, creating a plan, even though some of us don't agree with it at an early age, because the kids don't know what they want to be as a young adolescent, but we'll continue to look at that as well. English department, as we continue on with these scores here, I just mentioned the social studies department's vertical team meeting. I'm not aware of you guys having one, but, you know, still success shows here. Coach Ewan, I know you had AP Comp and you were at 68%. Of course, I hate to rub it in your face, but, you know, your counterpart there, Coach Smith, had 83% English Lit. Although I do know you had 66 students. What are your thoughts on your numbers? I mean, impressive. You know, 68% of 66 is pretty damn high.
I'm gonna echo what Ms. Umber said about screening and the prerequisites, but, you know, overall GPA, only offer it to 50, only offer it to 55 and stick to it. And then maybe, you know, as far as what Ms. Ando said about dropping out, have contracts with those parents as far as saying, if you sign up, they're not gonna be allowed to drop it. And then you set that makes your scheduling easier. You know, if you give me 50, then I can do 2 AP classes and then another class. And that might help some of the collaborative situation, having 35 and 40 in one class.
Very good point. Very good point. Coach Smith, 83% again, talking English here. I mean, what were your thoughts? I mean, your numbers were a lot less. I mean, 23 compared to 66. Personal opinion would be, I would think you would have more in Lit than you would in Comp, but, you know, is it maybe your disposition with students? Are they intimidated by you, or do you think it just because word got out your class was tough? I mean,
No, I felt like as far as a literature standpoint that I've talked with these teachers as well, my students were more prepared coming into my class maybe as more than they were going into Coach Ewan's class. So I don't know if it's what we're doing as a school, but we just need to all get together with prerequisites and looking at these students and seeing how prepared they are and see what changes we can make.
Well, and one thing with English, typically students take composition before they take Lit. So a lot of them, once they've taken Comp and kind of understood what an AP English class is going to be like, a lot of them don't follow through with literature, or they go take Honors English 12 or something. So I think you're right. They probably have had a little more experience with AP, and that could
And they
play a
also
role.
like to read,
Yeah.
and that plays a huge role, because there's not as much reading in Comp.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to our math department. And Ms. Barnett, again, anytime you've got something as a special ed collaboration here on the gifted students, feel free to chime in. got one of the greatest stats teachers that I know of. Great job this year. 83%. You had 12 students that took your course.
Might have something to do with it.
What did you notice in looking at these scores and maybe things we can fix for the future?
I think that is one of the things. It's the smallest class, that we have offering, and so we have more time to focus on individual problems and everything like that. And if there's any concerns with students, they can regroup and work together in small groups. It's not as big of a issue because I'm not combating 74 students. I'm only able to focus on 12, and so it's more personalized, which does help. At the same time, it probably could increase just a little bit. 12 is a small number, but at the same time, 10 out of 12 are making 3 or 4 or 5. So I think the class size does help that, and it kind of creates a good situation.
I think it goes back to the we were discussing with the prereqs earlier and things like that. 76.4% of statistics are made up. You realize that, right?
Well,
Coach Brown this year took on a new role as an AP Cal teacher for the first year. Had a score of 23% pass, which is pretty impressive for year one. What are your thoughts? What are the things we can do to help you as an administrative team?
Obviously, I'm not pleased with the 23%. We want to get that higher. Having 23 kids that are not going to get the college credits, not where we want to be at. But as a new first-year AP teacher, I am pleased with the 7 that did. They worked hard, and obviously the ones that didn't pass worked really hard as well. Speaking on that, I got to do a better job myself, maybe pacing myself through the year better. Being the first year, I wasn't for sure exactly what was going to happen. We had a couple of setbacks where we had to go back and reteach a couple of sections. On top of that, I think maybe professional development, maybe a couple of days out, maybe to get some more PD on AP classes, as on calculus specifically. Maybe talk to some teachers that's been doing it for a while, some veterans, maybe get some of their insight. I think that would help a lot too.
Or maybe something on strategies to meet the needs of the gifted students. Yeah. Sometimes you gotta go a different way with them.
Good point.
You said Al, you need to be in the summertime, you got students there, school year, so you make reviewed for PD, who can be there with them, what they can be doing.
That's a good question. I would say summertime PD would be fine. I agree with that. If they take me away from the classroom, that does put my AP kids at a big disadvantage. So anytime with PD during the summer would be much better than inside the school year.
All right. Great job. I think it's very, very important to include everybody's opinion rather than try to sit up here and mandate this is how we're going to do it. Because you guys are basically at the front lines. We're in the back as an administrative team looking. So what works for you guys is what we need to know so we can make sure that this happens in one way or another. So kind of going down the agenda here after we've introduced all those statistics. Looking at course offerings versus enrollment. Just off the top, hearing what you've had to say, do we right now have too many students in AP classes? Or is the problem maybe looking at this data that possibly we should offer more AP classes? Or should we turn around and train more teachers to teach AP so that we can kind of drop the number of students in the class? I mean, off the top, comments.
I think your last suggestion would be the best. I think we train more teachers to teach AP. If you look at it with statistics, the class that only had 12 had our highest passing rate. So therefore, what it looks like by the data is the lower the number of students in the room, the higher the test scores are going to be.
And I think if you're trained to teach AP, then if you're teaching in honors, you can still use those strategies, and that'll help you focus on the kids in those classes that you kind of need to push toward AP as well.
It could also just open up collaboration in general. If you've got 2 AP calculus teachers, they can work together to develop strategies, they can team teach. So it kind of opened up that option in terms of scheduling. It makes things a little bit easier as well.
And it also helps if we have some professional development during the school year. If you've got 2 AP calculus teachers, then you can make sure that a day is not missed of instruction.
Right, because there are, College Board offers AP like one-day institutes. So instead of going for the 5 days in the summer, there's one-day institutes, and that would be great. If you've got one Cal teacher who stays with the kids, another goes and does the training, and you can kind of switch that around.
Where do we stand on prereqs? And I know we mentioned earlier, Ms. Ando brought it up in this meeting, but should we, I guess, be more strict on the prereqs required for students to enroll in AP? Or do you think that it would dissuade students to get an AP? Yeah, it would help scores, but ultimately in the end, and I know data is everything, but if we're here to try to create a rigorous learning environment for students, you know, the AP curriculum itself is much different than an honors or regular classroom. So if we turn around and, I guess, analyze that in some way, isn't it about the child's learning environment? Isn't it about what the child pulls from that class? So if they're in an AP class, and even though they don't make the score, is that as beneficial as turning around and saying, no, I'm sorry, you can't take the class because you didn't meet the prereq? Or should we look at it, you've got to meet the prereq to take the class? Agreed?
I mean, I think that in my case, that I get a lot of students who just don't belong, and I think from my point of view, it needs to be more rigorous selection by us as maybe in the social studies department, for example, talking about sitting down and looking at these kids who have signed up and discussing with each other whether or not we think this student can do that work.
Well, I think that's College Board's intention as well, for the classes to be rigorous, for them to really mirror what a college experience is like. And so you do want to offer that opportunity to people, and it benefits everybody, even if they don't, you know, pass the test. But I think when it comes to College Board standards, they're really expecting it to mimic a college experience, and so it needs to be able to do
And
that.
I can see, and we need to remember from the parent's point of view, because from my point of view as a parent, even if they weren't gonna pass the test, they wouldn't pass the test, I like that they saw how it would be in college.
And maybe had better instruction.
And but I think we have some kids that maybe AP in for them, but the dual enrollment, would be another option
Mhm.
for some of those kids. And if you do the dual enrollment, you do get.
You're guaranteed the college credit.
So, I mean, that's something else, another option for
I would like to see us sitting down with parents who override on the
Mhm.
course cards. If we suggest that they need to be in regular classes or an honors class and they want to be in an AP class, I want that department chair and one of the administrators to sit down and explain to them exactly what they're gonna be getting, explain to them their options with dual enrollment, that maybe AP may not be for them, but they could do a dual enrollment health class or speech class or something like that. So those are some ideas that we need to be thinking about this summer when we're looking at scheduling and course cards and those things.
Well, and one thing I would be interested in kind of exploring in terms of prerequisites would maybe be some kind of application process.
Mhm.
When you think about the magnet school in Tuscaloosa, and that offers, you know, some of the most rigorous stuff for middle school and elementary school kids, and that's an application process. And so, you know, that would be a way that maybe kids who don't have that 85 but would be, you know, really strong AP student could get in through that way, or we would see the writing skills of kids or something. I mean, I think that could be something to explore.
All valid points. Ms. Barnett, I love that about the dual enrollment, because again, you know, what you get in, what you put out, preparing for a college class versus going ahead and getting the college credit. Because some students aren't going to pursue a 4-year degree. A 2-year degree is fine. If they can go ahead and help themselves and their families financially, then I think that works in the end. And electives, you know, AP Gov and AP Psych, both being electives in college, would turn around as we, I guess, analyze that as opposed to maybe English Comp, English Lit, or AP US, or maybe even AP Cal. You know, I think you guys should probably have more of a reign on who takes that course versus who don't, just based on the fact that some of those students may not be enrolled in a political science class in college and or a psychology, sociology class in college if they choose not to. So I think we as an administrative team have to come up with a solution there.
Well, I know for government, we're set up for failure from the start, the way in which it's currently written, in having to split it between government and econ. And to me, I feel like I'm set up for failure. I'm having to pack in a whole course in 9 weeks, and that is pretty impossible to do.
I don't envy you, but if anybody can do it, you can. Maybe Coach Ewan, but you know, definitely you.
Well, it's hard, and it's frustrating because their scores are gonna reflect on me, and, you know, they're long gone, and it's on me. And that's the frustrating part, and we saw that definitely last year with our scores for government.
Well, and another thing just with scheduling, I know this may not be anything we can change, is all the AP classes are in the spring. And so, you know, like mine, along with like AP Chem is on the first day of testing, but then like yours is at the end of the week, right? And they're checked out.
Right, and I do have seniors, like, there's other things that, you know, are
Prom.
seniors are checked out after spring break. Mine's typically the last test that they take of their high school career. Maybe lit, but there's very few lit kids, or comp, one of those, or they focus on those because before,
With the grant.
we had a grant that those students were getting paid if they passed with a 3 or above. So our department took a big hit as a result, because why would they need to study 4 hours when they weren't gonna get paid for it? And I think that's very reflective on our scores.
Coach Reeves, Ms. Endo, and myself have looked at other systems and have come up with a solution. Also, we've sent a letter to the Board of Education to continue on, because we know that the school system has money. Hopefully they can find ways to continue to fund that program, because, I mean, looking at the numbers here, I mean, you reward students, and with that, you create some type of intrinsic motivation that allows students to try to succeed at these classes rather than just take them to be with their friends. So we've tried to push that
Right, well,
forward.
they've now included social studies in the grant, so we did get some extra training on that, but that whole monetary incentive is not there, which the
Because
kids,
because of
right.
yeah, and that's what we're trying to get the system to do, but hopefully that comes through.
And we're gonna be looking at scheduling, going from 7-period day to block scheduling this year, having to get reoriented back to that. We did make some mistakes, but, we wanna make sure that we have AP and honors offerings both semesters. That way, if we do have a large number in AP that need to drop down, they don't drop to regular, they drop to an honors class. And I think by having more people trained to teach AP, then that'll open up some honors courses and some, other things that will help our kids.
Good, great dialogue. You wanna address the improvement plan?
We, well, from everything that y'all said, we're gonna go back to the drawing board and come up with an improvement plan. I'm definitely hearing you guys say that we need to have stricter and stronger prerequisites to get in that, get into the AP classes. I'm hearing you say you want more of your co-workers to be trained. We'll get those dates out ASAP. Ms. Umber is working on that already. We will also look at meeting with parents that wanna override and get their kids in. Coach Reeves, there are some things you're working on?
There is. I would like to see the minimum drop period, because it's not college, you have to fill that class time, you gotta fill that period with something else, and there's not enough room in some of these classes just to throw a kid somewhere, like a weight training or whatever,
Right.
that they can't get a credit for, and they need like a history credit, right? That's what the AP feels is like. So if there's not a history class open, what are you gonna do?
Got a point.
I think it, what, Ewan said about having a contract. I've been in a school where the parents and the students were required to sign a contract, and we were also required to do summer work. And if they did not complete that summer assignment, they were automatically removed from the program.
Do you still have that information?
I do.
Okay, we'll get that to Ms. Umber.
Well, guys, I appreciate your time, and again, our job as administrative team is to sit here and ask your opinion on everything, and rather than just try to make decisions for you. You keep fighting a good fight and let us handle the dirty stuff behind your backs, and know that your input is valued in some way, shape, form, or fashion. We're not gonna just reject everything. I've been around administration before who have done that, and we're not gonna do that. And, again, I very much thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you.